Part 2. I love having my glasses on. I can actually see the time for the change. It's 4:45 West Coast time. It's still Sunday the 7th of January 2024, and I got to get used to that damn time zone, don't I? Weaver, Jen City, Roseman, California, just trying to be alive and awake. And hello again, Mr. Artist in Recovery, Daryl. Recovery. Isn't it a wonderful thing? Coffee, 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 coffee. Reunions. See, I'm not quite so sure whether or not I actually wanted to go to the reunions or not. I mean, I did toy around with it a long time ago, but when my brother was still around, we actually had transportation, but reunions weren't. They keep coming every 5 years, and I've already screwed up a lot of them. Kennedy, there's been a welcome committee for that one. Every 5 years they would have it. But, oh well, I guess maybe in a couple of more years I'll be ready for it when I turn 60. But I don't know if anybody else will be alive of all the instructors or teachers or something like that. So I'm basically a no-show. Every time there's been a reunion, I've always been a no-show on those things. But concerning about how I lived my life, I lived through someone else's recovery, going from hell to recovery, and being part of his life before he passed away. A big brother and then Navy frogman and an addict, alcoholic, mean bastard. Recovery. One of the nicest guys, but he was still an asshole sometimes and a smart ass before he passed. And I was privileged. I was privileged to get to know this guy, imperfect as he was. He was a saint and a sinner. He was a pain in the ass. He was an asshole. He was my big brother. If I was going to be going to stand downs or places of gatherings regarding recovery, we'd go. We'd go, we hang out with the recovery people. Doesn't matter which one we would call it, either A or NA or otherwise. We hang out with the recovery people and we talk. Sometimes there were assholes over there that had politically opinionated, and we stayed the hell away from them, but the rest of them were okay. I never been to the high school reunions or the junior high or elementary, as I said before, because I just didn't. I didn't want to have anything else to do with these assholes. And I did call some of them assholes back then, and to this day, I don't know if they still are or not. When you collect as much stuff as I used to and had to sell it off, it hurts like hell because some of the stuff I sold off and didn't even realize is I had my junior high and high school yearbooks. I still have a reprint without the signatures all over the damn thing of high school graduation yearbook. And I have the pictures of those people who've passed on to this day and other friends in there. A graduating class of 85 Centurions. There's a guy who graduated a year after I did. His name's Paul. His sister's Debbie. And they've been through a lot. But these guys are close to me. Debbie's a few years older than I am, and she was the one that got me into SWAS in the first place. School within the school over at John F. Kennedy High School in Granada Hills. She graduated when I was just getting into 10th grade. A privilege to be part of their life. Still, we keep in contact with each other. That's how we met Ziggy. That's how I met Man I call Skins. He's wicked on drums. He's very wicked. Reminds me of Neil Peart. God rest his soul. God rest Rush. I tell you, when Neil Peart died, it felt like the music industry died with him. And we got that reaction from Zig on that one. Our friend's name was Dave DiTomaso, and he has a history. But he hadn't been through recovery, but he hadn't been through the addiction either. He's one of those rare people, actually, that hadn't been touched by the damn disease. But he had his fair share of insanity in his life. And he's still dealing with the good life he's got right now as it is, challenging as it is. He was a guy that would help you out no matter what would happen. Still is. He had to move up north to salvage his health and be with the rest of his family. He lost his wife out here, I think. And I think our upstairs, actually. And it still grieves him. But he's still trying to look at life in a different viewpoint than I had. I know there's probably people out there still wondering whether or not I'm going to have a dead ass and just start looking at life like he had. He already had the attitude. I was already the isolator. Also, my life I was an isolator. I learned to live life in isolation. So I was never the outgoing kind of person out there. I was always the in person. I was just into myself. Not with the Zen quality, but just into myself. I hardly ever made friends, but if I did, I don't know why the hell I did in the first place. Why? What were they looking at for me in the first place? What was it about me that attracted these guys into my realm? I wanted friends, but I had this social force field. The hands constantly out here saying, no. But they still liked me anyway. What the hell was it about me that they liked? I never could quite figure that out all through my life. It's like, what is it about me that makes you want to be part of my life? Shit. When I was going to high school, I got out of Hills, dude. These same guys still in my life to this day. They got their own lives. That's how it works. But back then, I had the closest home to the high school, and we were the hangout. My place was the hangout. Despite the fact I was still trying to take care of my grandmother up to a point, and while I was still going through high school, my grandmother died, and then I had to function afterwards, block everything else out. But I was still being tormented by it in the first place. Well, you're a lifelong griever. You go through the process yourself. How else are you supposed to look at life? You already seen death. You hadn't seen enough life. So now I had to learn how to live life, and I didn't know how to live life because I know how to live death, and I wanted death instead of life. Very weird personality I've got, I'll tell you. I liked computers. I liked playing the games. It was solitaire. Not the game solitaire. I'm talking about solitary. Being alone. Being alone, isolated with your own thoughts. In your own little world. Not dealing with anybody else but yourself. When I saw how alcohol and drug damn near destroyed my brother, I got out of high school. I guess it was changing me more and more. Not to the campaign of say no to drugs and alcohol. No. I guess maybe I was going to be looking forward to that. and I had to go through college. Here's the funny thing. I was trying to explain something about it in the other video, and I didn't get it out quite right. Ma valued education. Ma valued education like crazy. She didn't have the choices and didn't have the options I had. And she wanted to make sure I was going to go through those options, regardless of whatever happens. She didn't like college because she didn't know college. She didn't go to college. Hell, she didn't even get to high school already. I mean, she got hijacked when she was in junior high. And then this smooth talking, I don't know, maybe back then I'd call him an asshole. But this guy, my brother's father, came out of the army, saw this young woman, thought she was older. She wasn't. He came out of the war. I'm not quite sure if it was Korean or World War II. I think it was World War II. But he saw my mother as a young woman, older, mature. Wasn't. She was a kid. And they got married in Texas. And for a few years, Ma had a kid. I mean, she did have a life with him. And at first it was all right. And then he really got into serious drinking. And with drinking, things happen. To the point where my mother found a favorite house of hers that she held on to for a short time, gone because of him and his drinking. And this is a story I've heard from my brother and my mother. Mostly from Dave because he got it from Ma. She never did tell me the damn stories. Wish she had. Anyway, the drinking got to the point where he was an abusive alcoholic. She fought back. One time he just beat the shit out of her and went to sleep. He found himself tied up in black and blue with a note saying, "That's it, we're done." She divorced his ass. Took him back to Utah, I guess, or California, one of the two places. My mother was more mature during those days, almost an adult, and she had to find a job. Moved David out here to California where her bigger sisters, her older sisters, were living. One of them out in Bell, California, a suburb. Back then, I think it was a nice place to live during those days. But actually, it wasn't Bell, it was Huntington Park that they moved into. David, all intents and purposes, became the aunt and uncle's favorite child. And he inherited cousins as sisters. Well, Ma went looking for work in a house. And she wasn't. She was determined to keep a family together. And during those days, she had already been out of high. She had already been out of junior high. She didn't have the high school equivalency. If they actually had back then the need for a high school diploma or a GED, she didn't have it. But she was smart as a whip. She went into different companies, uh, retail, trying to earn her way left and right. She'd send money to keep my brother, living, but she would also save money as well. To a point where she actually found an apartment to live in and different companies to work at. Yeah, bounce from place to place. I mean, she worked for a five and dime at one time and worked in an accounting department from from the front lines to the back office, handling the books and balancing them too. She was good at numbers. I guess that's why we fell in love with Woolworth. That was a five and dime place to always hang out at. Not to mention the lunch counter. Yeah, those days. Got to the point where Ma was taking David back. But at that point, we had, well, big sister of Ma was going to adopt my brother. Ma fought him. Even fought Grandma. He didn't fight the matriarch of the family, but she did. The youngest was telling the matriarch of the family, "This is my son, not yours. I'll raise him the way I think I see fit." So she brought him with him, San Fernando Valley. Lived in the apartment by no one and Ethel. But she was also pregnant. She had a fling with this guy named of Jack Weaver, Jack Elmo Weaver. He hated his name, switched it to John. Everybody called him Jack. His real name was John Elmer or Elmo, one of those two. Weaver. There was something about this guy that he didn't like his name, so he took out the E. I still have his birth. I still have my birth certificate with his name on it, somewhere. With his birth certificate, I had my mother's real name on there, the legal name. Everybody called my mother Marianne because she had a Marianne personality, they called it. But she never did get her name legally changed. She just continued to deal with the nickname. I mean, everything was signed off with her real name, but everybody called her Marianne. That's why she insisted. My biological sperm donor, as a father, oh, that asshole. He never did want anything to deal with me, dude. I swear he didn't. He disappeared after I was born. He knew my brother, spent time with my brother. He liked my brother. He didn't like me. He didn't like the responsibility of being a father. I guess back then there was no protections except not to do it. Lifelong resentment on that one. But I learned how to be in isolation during those days. And especially when I got sick too many damn times. I was born a sickly kid, born a month too early. Should have been born in February instead of January. And health complications put me into oxygen tents left and right. Till I get the heart surgery. And everything else changed real damn fast. Attitude, physical, everything. Yeah. I tell the story from my own history, from my own thing. I had to keep understanding where the hell I came from. And when I lose people in my family, when I lose family, period, hurts like hell. I talk about my grieving. I talk about my mourning. I talk about when the emotions kick my ass left and right. And how it leaves me in tears and how it leaves me as a basket case these days. I've had people on my channel commenting, both positive and negative sometimes. I deal with the positive, but the negative, I'm like, don't tell me how to live. I'll tell you how to live your life. But yeah, I should be like other people, shouldn't I? I'm not. I'm an isolator. I've lived in isolation all my life. I didn't have nannies. I had my mother and I had my brother. My brother was my guardian. All the way up until he went into the Navy and then became an asshole and a drug dealer. No, not a drug dealer, a drug user and an alcoholic. Heavy. But he was already an alcoholic before he went into the Navy anyway. He was already drinking. He was already testing my mother's booze out when Ma came home from work. So he already had the budding nature of that one. Already had the isolationist, self-destructive, narcissistic egomaniac. That was me. Dude, when I was a young kid, I had stronger, tougher teeth. Not these days. But back then, I could tear his army men to shreds. Oh God, he was pissed. That was self-destructive, man. That was worse than Dennis the Menace. I gotta laugh at that one. I have to, because I was. I chewed his toys up. He inherited army men. I inherited things that had teeth on. Headless, armless, without a stand. Oh God, he hated that. I know he wanted to kick my ass royally, but he couldn't do that. I didn't think we talked about it as much, and we didn't before he passed on that one. I wish we had. He'd probably be pissed off at me and still laugh about the damn thing. I would. uh, Ma valued education. She read. She did crossword puzzles. She did stuff to occupy your brain. She lost the opportunity going into high school, and she never did pursue the GED until maybe later on in life. But she never did go for it. I mean, go through the classes and get the GED. Enough to qualify to get into a college and teach a course or two, maybe, of accounting and bookkeeping. She was that far ahead in the game mentally. But life kept knocking her out that she wasn't. And she was pissed at me for not taking school seriously enough. I mean, seriously. I wasn't. I wasn't taking school seriously enough. You kidding me? There was no way I was going to be doing that to myself. But I had to do it for her. I had to do it for the LA Unified School District, because if I didn't, I'd get my asses kicked on this one. I'd get expelled or whatever the hell they would call them during those days. Get your ass kicked out of the system. Don't come back, Jack. Fuck. But I did. I graduated. Then I tried to get into a college system. And if I hadn't had this program, if I didn't understand what it was back in SWAS, I wouldn't have been able to go through the damn shit and try to pass the damn thing. But after spending 2 years in college and not taking it seriously enough, I mean seriously, I had a letter of separation. They gave me a year off. And thus became a 30 plus year of kicking my royal ass. And I did that to myself. Sometimes I feel it was too late for me going back after Ma died. It's like, why? I mean, why do it? It should have been done a long time ago. It wasn't. I was still kicking my ass over that shit. I mean, I was royally kicking my ass on that one, Daryl. Back then, I didn't give it. I didn't care. I mean, I did it for her, not as much for me. I don't know what the hell I was thinking during those days. But my head wasn't in the game. It literally wasn't. Now, a lot of time, perspective, and ass kicked. I'm starting school tomorrow. Another semester at college. I mean, it's 7 years, but taking a 2 classes at a time without trying to kill myself in the process. But even with that, I'm succeeding. I'm succeeding in college. Ma would have been pissed off and thrilled as hell if she was still alive. And so would Dave. Not being pissed off, he'd be thrilled as hell. She'd be pissed off saying, why didn't you do this a long time ago? Believe me, I kept asking myself that for over 30 frickin' years. And I kept asking myself, and I still haven't got the adequate answer out of myself on this one. Maybe I wasn't ready for the damn shit. But I gave it a try. I tried to understand a few things here and there. Learned a little bit about English history. And that was something, I don't know if it was useful or not. I'm still going over some of the information concerning about the Tudors, about why they kept trying to kill each other off with the melodramatic crap going on through the Dark Ages to the Age of Enlightenment. Weird ass people back then, I swear to God they were. And having a history professor back then talking about backstabbing left and right didn't exactly help my grades in that damn class. My God, he was melodramatic. Thompson was his name. This guy would have put people to sleep. He almost did. But there was a teacher before him that taught the colonialism of England, William the Conqueror in those days, and feudalism, how the system was set up, how the agriculture was set up over there, how the land management, distribution, how the Vikings came over, how the Romans came over. My God, this guy was more animated than anything else. I wish I got to remember this guy's name, because he was a dynamic teacher. I love this guy. Of course, he had a wife. His wife was an English teacher. Oh, I get an English 101 and get that passed, and then I take English literature. And she was hip on this. She was literally hip on this one. That's why some of the authors I read, I kept close to my heart because some of them actually did respond well to that one. Coleridge was one of the authors out there that wasn't Wadsworth or Frost. But it was Coleridge's story that I held on to because it mattered to me. It related to me, and I felt like I was part of it. I was part of it. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. I'd hear elements throughout my life. And I kept thinking about that damn albatross around my damn neck. Our regrets, our decisions, our choices, the things that drive us nuts, the things that drive us insane, the things that drive us, period. Those things that matter the most. And that means a damn to us. We face the decisions. The story was supposed to be for a Christian thing, but it was elemental in this form. I really started to understand this one when I was in college this time as an adult because I had an English teacher I'm going to be taking this time, but for Shakespeare. And she was really opening my eyes about Coleridge and how more related to me every single day. Back then, up to now, that I still have the albatrosses hanging around my neck, dude. Even if I've been shrived. That's why we have to keep doing the four step all the time, and the fifth, and the sixth, and the 10th. We still have to constantly take inventory on ourselves. Because we have those damn albatrosses hanging around our necks, dude. This was so important for me to understand history to this day because I got the time and perspective. I didn't have it back then as a kid. I didn't understand a damn thing. Mom kept asking me, why? I can answer her now. I didn't have what I needed back then. Time, perspective, understanding, context. I didn't have what it took. I didn't have what was needed to pass it. She kept thinking it was just like regular schoolwork. It wasn't. If I had learned anything concerning about the scholastic program I tried to survive and screwed up in high school, if I understood about that back then, it would have helped me out more during the college days, and it didn't. I guess maybe I wasn't ready for the damn shit. But I sure as hell had to be ready for the work stuff because I wasn't going to be spending all the time just doing nothing at home. Ma had made it clear. If I was going to be living under her roof, it was either work my ass off or you get your ass going through school and pass the damn thing. If you can't pass it, you work your ass off. Otherwise, homeless. You're on the streets. And she wasn't playing. She was not playing. She knew how valuable education was for me during those days. She knew it. And I failed her. And I busted my ass for over 30 frickin' years. Kicking my ass and feeling the subconscious kick and ass from her. I had to keep the paychecks going. I had to keep the work going. She valued education, and she would stick me in these kind of weird-ass situations regarding retraining. Be this, be that, be this, be that. Be retrained for this. Money, money, money. It's not the money. Well, I guess she was trying to better myself. I kept thinking about the money, money, money because that's what she thought me to do. Find a better niche. Get more money out of it. I really didn't understand it back then, did I? If she could have just said back then, and why didn't I think of it at the time or do anything about it? I'm going back to college. You couldn't support a house and go to college at the same damn time. Not possible. You had to go to college part time and then full time. And the thing is, I tried doing that after the academic probation was gone. It was lifted. I tried. Didn't work out. I had a job that didn't allow it. If I actually really had a 9 to 5 job, that would have been different. But would have been. A 40-hour a week didn't give me any time to go to college. I would have had to have a part-time job. But the problem is with the part-time jobs, the hours fluctuated. And it was hardly any chance for me to go to college, except if I had kept arranging it with the employer for it. And I tried to do that while I was in college. And I found out how difficult that was. And then when I got back into college, when I actually had a full-time retail job, the hours bounced like crazy. There was no way one semester was going to do it. I saw how things were going crazy back then. I just stuck working my ass off for a living. I self-sabotaged myself on that one, Daryl. I self-sabotaged myself on that. And from time to time, I still kick myself on that damn shit. You talk about this is why the story of Coleridge was relevant about the albatross hanging around the neck. How about thinking about Greek mythology, tragedy? How about Atlas supporting the world on his shoulders? What was the other guy who was doomed for all eternity to keep rolling a rock up and keeps rolling back down there? And that was me. All these stories I would read and all the stories I would go over to colleges back in those days when I did go to college, they stick with me. Elements of it sticks with me. It makes me understand my life a lot more. Sometimes I think it was a Greek tragedy. I think I could have been a Greek tragic story. I kept kicking my ass and I kept blaming. I kept doing the self-sabotage. I kept tearing myself apart left and right, Daryl. So no wonder I kept with the drinking. Even physically, I may be recovered. I'm still alcoholic like-minded. I'm still tearing myself apart. I'm still thinking I'm not good enough for this damn shit. I should have been a long time ago, and I wasn't. I understand more and more about the desperation people feel when they want to self-destruct. I'm getting it more and more. You're talking about your reunion. You didn't want to be like one of those assholes out there or deal with them. I think I became a horse nightmare. And it's scary. And the decision I made sometimes, just because of my own mental status, I delayed my college as an adult right now. Felt I wasn't ready, I didn't go. But I kind of have to ask myself right now as it is. Right now, dude. Am I ready? I know. I have to answer that myself. But I kick myself every time I keep delaying it. I wanted it, but making the damn decision like that? Oh, God. In order for me to get back into college, I have to have a right mind for this. I have to be fired up, determined, and saying, screw what the hell negative thoughts are. Just go full balls on this one. I'm tired of castrating myself on this. It's that important to me. It's important to Ma, it's important to David, and it's important to me. I've been through too much. Dumbass decisions I've made. Kicking my ass left and right. How the hell am I not supposed to be able to deal with this shit? You worry about your damn reunion. You don't want to be hanging around with the damn maggots. If I was hanging around me back then, I wouldn't like me either. I was isolating from everything and anybody. Worst off, myself. I'm not looking to this day for. I'm not looking for the attention, but I do videos on this. I'm not looking for people to cheer my name, but the only two people I hear louder is my family, and they're dead. And right now, they're telling me I can do this. I can do this, Daryl. Daryl, I am doing this. I'm doing this. I would suggest, my friend, you stay with what you know right now. The type of people that you know in recovery. You keep telling your story. You keep telling them what went on. You tell them about a reunion that people have a different way of looking at things, angry, and you want to be the opposite, and you don't want to hang around with people like that. You want to hang out with the quote-unquote winners, the ones who got the sobriety and recovery time. They're the ones you need to deal with. They're the ones you hang around. Those are the ones you live life. Anyway, I'll talk at you later. I got laundry to do this morning.